Now, let's look at the peripheral nervous system. What is the peripheral nervous system? The peripheral nervous system is any part of the nervous system that is not part of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay? And they include the cranial nerves, which is 10 in number. You don't have to know the names of all the cranial nerves at this level. Okay? When you get to the level where you know them, you will know them. Alright? And you also have the spinal nerves, which is 31 in number. Just know their numbers. Okay? Just know their numbers. Okay? The cranial nerve is 12 pairs. Okay? Left, right, left, right. Then the spinal nerve is what? 31 pairs also. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay? So that's that. A part of the vertebrae called rami. That's where, or ramus, singular and plural. Okay? That's where this 31 pairs of spinal nerve originates from. That's where it comes out from. Okay? To supply the other part of the peripheral nervous system. That's the peripheral nerves. Alright? So what are the functions of the peripheral nervous system? The peripheral nervous system connects the body organs, every other part of the body, to the central nervous system. You know, in our central nervous system, everything happens. I always say that the most important organ in the body is the brain. The most important organ in the body is the brain. Is the brain. Without the brain, other part of the body, no part of the body can function without the brain. Everything now here they control. Now make for motor, then they get brain box. Here, now they control everything. Your brain. Okay? So the peripheral nervous system also carry what? Motor outputs to muscles and glands in the body. Okay? It takes nervous impulse away from the brain, supplies to what? To other parts of the what? The body, which is the peripheral nervous system. Where you have peripheral nerves, like nerves in the gland, organs, muscle, and so on and so forth. So basically, in function to carry waiting happen for inside brain, or waiting brain send and go other parts of the body. Apart from the brain and the spinal cord, you taking it from the central nervous system to other parts of the what? The body, or other parts of the nervous system, because you know you have nerve. Nerve is usually found everywhere, every part of your body. Okay? Now, let's look at the division of the peripheral nervous system next. This is the division of the peripheral nervous system on the screen. On the left-hand side of the table, we have division. On the right-hand side of the table, we have the function of that particular division. Looking at the first we have there, the first division is the somatic, which means what? Body. Okay? And the function of the somatic division of the peripheral nervous system is what? It controls voluntary muscle action. Voluntary muscle control, contraction and relaxation of voluntary muscle. That's the function of the somatic. So I know that you now understand that at this point we have been describing that diagram of the nervous system. That diagram I told you that everything about the nervous system is in that diagram. The branch is everything. So if you know that diagram, you know everything about the nervous system. Now we are now discussing the peripheral side, where you have the two divisions. You have the somatic and the what? The parasympathetic. You have the sympathetic. You also have enteric too. Okay, I told you that enteric has a link. Okay, it has close relationship with the parasympathetic. All right. So let's look at the second branch of the peripheral nervous system, which is the autonomic. The autonomic part, and I told you what autonomic means not quite long ago. What is the function of the autonomic part of the autonomic division of the peripheral nervous system? It helps in what? Involuntary what? Organ control. When you say involuntary, it means that it's something that you can't control as a human. It is the function of the autonomic nervous system to control it. That's why it's called autonomic nervous system. It doesn't depend on any other part of the body to function. It doesn't take order from you to function. It functions on its own. Okay? It functions on its own. Autonomic, it means independence. You are working on your own. You are not taking any order from any part, anybody. So it does what? Involuntary control of organs. Involuntary. The somatic is voluntary. Muscle contraction and relaxation, skeletal muscle. Voluntary. Voluntary means you can control it. Involuntary means you can't control it. So when you say autonomic controls involuntary, it's like contraction of muscles of the heart, all those things where you know they feel control. Like all those smooth muscles where they inside the lungs that helps you in breathing. You have the ones in the intestine, you understand, that you can't control. I mean, you control the movements for your intestine. If you're hungry, you're let them make now you control them. No, it is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. All right, and remember, this autonomic nervous system is now further divided into what? The sympathetic and the parasympathetic division. All right, so the sympathetic division controls what? Fight or flight. I already explained this before. Why the parasympathetic controls what? Rest and digestion. When you do rest, when you do the active, I tell you say make you carry sympathetic as activity. You dey active, you dey agile, they walk, they be active. But parasympathetic, when you calm, you dey rest. Now they control them. They rest. Your day you calm, digestion, basal metabolism. Okay, when your body is in the post-absorptive state. Okay, when absorption they occur after digestion, you just calm, you dey rest. All right, so that's where this parasympathetic nervous system comes into play. Now let's look at impulse transmission. How is impulse transmitted? I swear. Jamb, they repeat this thing, die. They repeat and die. I'm telling you. What is the what? The transmission pathway of impulses, nerve impulses. How is it transmitted? What is the pathway? What is the cascade? What are the processes that occur during the transmission of nerve impulse? Do you know it? Let's look at it. Let's get to it. The mechanism is simple. Stimulus I know that by this stage you should know the meaning of stimulus. Okay, stimulus means induction, triggering. Something is triggering something. That's stimulus. Trigger. Something triggered this. Something led to this. That's stimulus. All right. And you know what stimulus is? Stimulus is brought about by stimuli. Okay, stimulus is brought about by a stimuli. So the trigger is the stimulus. Stimuli is that thing that brings about the trigger, all right, or stimuli is that thing that brings about the trigger. Okay, so let me give you a practical example. For example, my eye is open. I just wave my hand like this. I can't blink. This blink why I blink. Now stimulus. Okay, that is a trigger. Now let's look at the mechanism at which impulse is transmitted. Nerve impulse for that matter. How does it happen? The mechanism is through stimulus. There must be a stimulus. There must be a trigger. After trigger, the trigger is transmitted to receptors. What is the function of a receptor? A receptor is to detect a trigger. Receptor detects what? Stimulus. Chemoreceptor. Chemical. Chemo means chemical. Receptor means a detector. So if you put the two words together, chemical detector. So a chemoreceptor detects chemical trigger, such as when you put chemical inside your tongue now, for example. The chemoreceptors whether your tongue will detect, say, this is so chemical. It is that receptors that detect that this is a chemical and it sends it to the brain through the nerve. Okay, you can see. So that's the second. Okay, so from stimulus to receptor, which detects it, then from receptor to sensory neuron. Remember what I taught you about sensory. Anything sensory, what I tell you say be the one that brings to the central nervous system. It brings impulse to the central nervous system, to the brain. All right, then after the sensory impulse now brings it to the brain, the next way we go enter will come be the central nervous system, will be the brain. It brings sensory, takes it to the brain. Then the brain detects the information, processes the information, interprets it, and what? Sends a response. Okay, but I tell you which kind of nerve they take information or impulses away from the brain or away from the central nervous system. Is the motor neuron away from. Remember, this motor neuron is also called the efferent neuron. All right, why? Remember, this sensory neuron is also called what? The afferent neurons. All right, then these motor neurons now takes this information towards the effector. And what is effector? Like I taught you before, is a part or an organ that responds to stimuli. Okay, an organ or a part that responds to stimulus. That's effector. Okay, for example, okay, I carry needle, I shook you for your skin. Okay, when I shook you the needle for your skin, for your face, that is the stimulus, a trigger. And when I shook you that needle, your receptor, where they here, okay, where they your skin, which kind of receptor were they there? Tactile receptors. The touch receptors in the skin is going to, there's a receptor for pain. Okay, the pain receptors is usually called the nociceptors. Okay, pain receptor, nociceptors. Okay, for this level, don't worry about that. Just know it's pain receptor or pressure receptor. Receive this impulse that this thing we don't detect and say na needle something they shook for there. Then it go come send and give wetin sensory nerve wey go transport and go brain, because we have to interpret this to know wetin happen, wetin happen for there, wetin chook that place, wetin chook me, wetin do that thing. So this sensory neuron go come transfer and go brain. Then when it transfer and go the central nervous system, the brain go come process am, interpret am. The brain receives, processes, interprets it, and send information towards the motor nerve, because the motor nerve they carry information away from the brain. And you as your brain don't interpret and finish, now inside that place where your brain they interpret and your brain go come say, that thing won't be like shuku, that thing won't be like needle wey they shook for them. When your brain don't interpret and finish, you go come send that your brain go don't come, it go don't come activate this protective mechanism. Tell you say, na needle they shook you there, try protect yourself small. It go come send that protection, that protection impulse through your motor nerve, then through the effector. That's the effector. Now that part of your body or the organ where we say they respond to the stimuli, then you come dress back like this. In form of to protect yourself, according to wetin the brain don't tell the effector make you do, you can't do like this. This happens very rapid. Okay, the functionality of the nervous system is very rapid as compared to the endocrine system. Okay, you know that they work in harmony. The endocrine system and the nervous system works in harmony to ensure homeostasis. So the transmission is very rapid in the nervous system, very fast, very swift. But in the endocrine system, it is much slower. That is the major difference between the nervous system and the endocrine system. Okay, fast, slow. Okay, very rapid. This is why I just explained for you since this thing they occur within 0.2 or 0.1 milliseconds. All right. So this is it. The mechanism of transmission of impulse from stimulus to receptors, from receptors to sensory neurons, from sensory neurons to central nervous system, from central nervous system to motor neurons, from motor neurons to effector. As I explain everything for you, if you understand, you don't need to cram this thing for head. If you see it for your exam, you will know how it's supposed to be. All right. So it involves the electrical impulses and the chemical neurotransmitter across synapse. Okay. So what is synapse? Synapse is the connection between the neuron and the the effector. Okay, usually muscle. Okay, neuromuscular junction. That's what is known as synapse. Okay, it doesn't connect completely. Okay, the nerve, the neuron will end for here. Okay, then the muscle or the parts will be here. So since now nerve impulse, electric impulse, like they transmit, okay, from the nerve to the effector, there is no need for contact. The neuron, no, they get in contact with the organ or the body parts. No, it is through neurotransmitters. They are chemical substance that help to transfer impulse throughout the body. They transmit impulse throughout the body. It is through these neurotransmitters that nervous coordination occur. It is through the neurotransmitters that this electric impulse is transmitted from the nervous system to the effector. All right. So it is through the neurotransmitters, such as you have various neurotransmitters such as potassium, you have calcium, you have sodium, you have chlorine, and so on and so on. All of them are ions. So you just know that you basically have ions and cations. Okay, remember, it's transmission of electrical impulse. All right, let's look at reflex action. Okay, let's understand the reflex action. All right, what is a reflex action? Reflex action is an involuntary action that does not concern the brain. It's an involuntary action that protects the body and does not have any connection with the brain. It's an involuntary action that protects the body with no connection with the brain, only spinal cord. The spinal cord regulates reflex actions. All right, that's it, as simple as that. As simple as ABCD. Involuntary means you can't control it. All right. So the pathway of reflex action is different from the normal impulse transmission pathway. Okay, because the reflex action does not involve the brain. You have just slight difference. Okay, in the pathway of reflex action. Jamb still is set well. So the first, what we have in the pathway, the first is it starts from the receptor. Okay, that detects it. Okay, the receptor detects danger. Then it's sent to the sensory neurons that takes this information to where? It takes it to the spinal cord. Okay, and this sensory neuron takes it to the spinal cord, then it is processed in the spinal cord, and the spinal cord detects it as danger, and the spinal cord, sends information to help to protect the body through the effector. Okay, and this information that the spinal cord sends, it sends it through what? Motor neuron, because it's going away from the central nervous system, through what? An efferent nerve to where? To effector. An effector is what? The organ or body part that responds to a stimuli. This effector will now respond to the stimuli, and protects the body in attempt to protect the body parts. Let me give you a relatable example to this. Okay, reflex action. All right. So, for example, you dey sleep. As you dey sleep, I can't carry hot pots. I can't put that for your hand when you dey sleep. What thing will happen? Your receptors for your hand will detect. Say, this thing I don't detect as waiting the hot to. It will send that information to your sensory neurons. Okay, when it sends the information to your sensory neuron function to carry am, because na sensory. Carry am go spinal cord. Remember, it's involuntary, no be you dey control. When you carry the information go spinal cord go interpret am, spinal cord go see am as danger. Say this thing will destroy the body parts. Okay, it will damage the body parts. Spinal cord go try to protect, attempts to protect that body part. It will send protective information through the motor nerve. Send them go that particular organ we will help, or that particular body part tissue we will help to protect the body. We will apply protective mechanism to protect that body part, which is what you can withdraw or you can throw away the pots. This happens within 0.1 milliseconds. Okay, so you can't throw away the pots because it is hot to protect the person, to protect the skin from getting damage. That's a typical example of reflex action. Now let's look at the types and examples of reflex action. We have basically three types of reflex actions. Okay, three types of reflexes. All right, on the left hand side of the table we have the types, while on the right hand side of the table we have the examples. All right, under the types of reflex action we have the simple reflex action. The first, listing the types, we have simple reflex action, we have conditional reflex actions, we have voluntary reflex action. All right, so under simple reflex action, example include like jerking your knee and what? Blinking. This one is the simple one, involuntary one. Okay, the one defined here, the one I defined. We also have conditional reflex action. This one is true conditioning. It's gotten as a result of conditioning. For example, salivation at bell ringing and riding a bicycle. You learn how to ride a bicycle, it turns a condition because you have conditioned yourself. It now look as if it's not automatic. Riding a bicycle, it's not automatic, it's a conditioned reflex action. Okay, it's conditioned. Okay, you condition yourself. Remember the salivating dog at the ringing of the bell. A psychologist called Pavlov, Ivan Pavlov, carried out this experiment. Okay, let me just quickly walk you through the experiment. Okay, anytime where Pavlov want give in dog food, he go ring bell. As he ring bell, go carry food come out. He do on the first time, do on the second time, do on the third time. So the dog brain don't come understand that say anytime when they ring that bell, they go carry food come out. Say food must follow after that bell. So Pavlov come observe the dog, and you know say anytime when dog want chop, then they salivate. That shows that they want to eat. Okay, they salivate. That shows that they are ready to eat. They are hungry. They want to eat. Food they come make I chop. Salivation. All right, their digestive tract is getting them ready for digestion or for ingestion of food. They salivate. Okay, that shows that they are expecting food. They want to eat. Okay, so because of say Pavlov don't condition that dog, he don't do it for a long time. Anytime with the ring bell, food go follow. Pavlov can decide to carry out an experiment. Okay, condition reflex. He carried out this experiment, and Pavlov ring the bell. He not carry food come out, but Pavlov come from window observe the dog. You see, say the dog dey shake tail, dey happy. Say they expect say food go come. Say they go carry food come. Pavlov no bring any food. Pavlov now came out from his room and went to the dog and discovered that the dog was what? Salivating already. The dog is salivating. So there was no food that usually triggers salivation in dog, because now when they see food, they will start to salivate. There was no food, but yet the dog salivated. Why? Because of the conditioned reflex. It is involuntary. The dog can't control it. It has been conditioned. Okay, it was brought about. All right, it's artificial. Okay, it's conditioned. We condition that reflex action. The dog starts salivating, whether they bring food or whether they don't bring food. So long as that dog don't hear that bell, the dog will start to salivate because the expects food will come. And you can also condition this dog again to stop salivating. How do you do it? You can also recondition another reflex whereby you have already created a reflex that anytime you ring bell, the dog will salivate for food. All right, even when food no dey, even when the dog no see food. You can also recondition the dog again. You ring bell, anytime you ring bell, food no go come out. Anytime you ring bell, food no go come out. If you repeatedly do this, carry this out, again when you go reach, that dog no come dey salivate again. It will now be another conditioned reflex again. The dog doesn't salivate when the dog is not seeing food. Do you understand? That's Ivan Pavlov for you. I think Ivan Pavlov is a Polish psychologist. I think so. All right. Let's now look at the final one here, which is the voluntary action. This one is a kind of reflex that is almost automatic. It's like riding a bicycle, but this one you are doing it voluntarily because you are controlling everything. Okay. For example, writing and speaking. When you dey talk, you will be like an automatic something. It's just automatic because it's voluntary. Okay. It's a voluntary action. Okay, it's a voluntary action. You talk, you just talk, just take it easy. Writing, if you dey write, you just see yourself, you only write like say, you know, everything will go freely because it's a what? It's a voluntary action. All right. So, Jamb 2026 candidates, I think we are going to stop here. We are going to continue from the next one. The lecture is getting too long. All right. So, I'll see you guys in the next class. So, if you want a copy of this file, you are seeing on the screen. Don't lose guard. This file contains everything you need to pass your Jamb UTME. It's short, it's concise, straight to the point. No time to read textbook. If you don't say you never prepare, now this file now you need to pass. Candidates don't use them for years. Remind you, this file was tailored from Jamb 2026 syllabus. Everything, all the objectives, we take out one after the other. This file took us a long time to create. So get this file and blast your UTME. Remember, my team has compiled the file containing the most repeated Jamb past questions in day one file. Not just the past questions, brief explanation of the answers they inside. You can get it. If you need this file, just send me a message. Okay, send me a message. My phone number is on my bio. Add up that phone number and send me a message. You get the file. For your information, the file is available in physics, chemistry, and biology. Only physics, chemistry, biology. I'm out of this place.